Welcome into the George Plaster Show. Last day of the week. It is a Friday. It is a beautiful day outside. Warm, sunny, high 60s. Enjoy it because we're supposed to be getting down into the lower temperatures a little bit next week. It may be a beautiful day outside, but it is tough for a lot of people, especially in the eastern Tennessee area, following the tragic news of Wes Rucker, a guy that has covered Tennessee athletics for, I believe, 25 years, who tragically passed away yesterday in a car accident. There aren't many words, good enough words that you can say in a situation like this. It's really sad. I was a big fan of Wes, and although I never really had the chance to speak with him one-on-one, I associated in similar circles that he did. I know that we touched base sometimes on social media, and I know that he touched base with a lot of you as well. He was a professional. He was 100% truly authentic to himself, and it's very sad, and definitely keeping his family in his prayers. I know that his son Hank has had some kidney issues, some kidney surgeries. His wife Lauren is a great person, and I can't imagine what all that they are dealing with. And I know they have another kid that is on the way. So there was a GoFundMe that was posted by, I believe, his sister. So if you were able, there's a GoFundMe available. Just a really sad situation all around. And I hate that we are starting the show on a little bit of a sour note, but this needed to be addressed because Wes Rucker was truly one of the best at his craft, and he was a great person, even better person. So with that, we are going to just continue into the show. We have a loaded show today. Lots of University of Tennessee talk, as Joey Aguilar was just denied his 6th year of eligibility by the Knoxville Circuit Court. And we have Mark Griffin, who is a former Tennessee basketball player. He'll be coming on at 3:20 to preview the Vols matchup with Vanderbilt tomorrow from West End. And we're going to continue our Titans conversation from yesterday. Also, no Kelly Holcomb with us today, but we do have George on the line, and we bring him up into the show right now. George, how's it going?
Good, and I echo a lot of the comments that you made about Wes Rucker. I knew him a little bit. I didn't know him real well. Had him on the show several times. Seemed like a really good guy. What a tragedy. Man, my thoughts and prayers go out to his family. It's just an unspeakable thing, and just hate that it's happened.
I know. I was my wife and I, we were at a concert last night, and I checked my phone because one of my friends had texted me, and he had mentioned that there was a rumor going around that Wes Rucker had passed away. And I was praying that it wasn't true. But, as we got throughout the course of the night and even into this morning, a lot of those reports had been confirmed. Just a terrible, terrible situation. And I can't imagine what his family was going through right now.
Yeah. I can't even begin to understand the hurt that they're feeling.
It is very sad. And again, there is a GoFundMe link that is available on social media. I know if you have Twitter, if you have Instagram, you've probably seen it at some point. It's floating around. It was posted by Wes Rucker's sister. So if you're able, I'm sure that the family would greatly appreciate that. So let's go ahead and transition into our update for today. The United States, they are playing in the semifinals versus Slovakia right now. They're up 2-0 on the Slovakians. And earlier today, Canada was taking on Finland, and Finland had a 2-0 lead. But, no leads are really safe when you're taking on the Canadians. And UC Saros, I thought, played a heck of a game. He was doing everything that he could. But when you're getting peppered like the Canadians were peppering UC Saros, eventually it starts to get pretty difficult. And Canada moves on in overtime, 3-2. They advance to the gold medal game where they will take on the winner of the U.S. and Slovakia.
Yeah, what I've seen so far, and I've watched pretty much this period and a few minutes into the second, United States has, at least so far, clearly been the better team. They've had a bunch of really good shots on goal. a lot of chances. That doesn't necessarily mean you win, because a goaltender can stand on his head and be the great equalizer. But at least for the moment, it sure looks like it's going to be the U.S. and Canada on Sunday.
Which is honestly, I don't think the fans would take it any other way. U.S. and Canada for a gold medal on Sunday. Again, it's early game, 7:10 a.m. The bronze medal game will be tomorrow. And George, you got to think the message going into this is obviously there's going to be a lot of motivation for either side because you get the chance to play in a gold medal game. But you think about it, for the U.S., you get a chance to compete for a gold medal. And not only that, against your biggest rival, Canada, I figure there's probably a little extra motivation on the U.S.'s side in this.
Sure. I mean, you've got a bunch of players that deal with each other in the NHL. Canada is sort of the sport in hockey, but it's pretty clear that what the United States is producing has closed that gap significantly, let's say in the last 10 years.
Sure.
And so while Canada will be favored on Sunday, not by much.
Not by much. And it is certainly going to be exciting. I will be up for that one. I will make sure I'm up early, got the coffee ready, coffee and hockey. And George, I just learned today that the Olympics, usually the gold medal game in hockey ends the Olympics. So the Winter Olympics will be over after the game on Sunday. And a quick medal tracker, the Norwegians still have a firm grasp on the lead with 17 gold medals, which is a record. They have 37 in total, and the United States jumped up to 2 yesterday after the women took home the gold medal over Canada, have 28 total medals and 10 gold. So that is a medal tracker, and Italy is right behind the U.S. in third. So this news came out literally right before we got on the air. Joey Aguilar has been denied the preliminary injunction, which therefore means he will not be eligible for Tennessee in the 2026 season. His college season is over. Doubt that he's going to get many NFL opportunities, if any. Tony Basilio came on the show earlier this week and said the CFL was an option, the XFL is an option. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens with Joey Aguilar on the professional front.
So now this is a real body blow for Tennessee. I honestly thought the decision would go the other way, just simply because you feel like you get a little bit of a home court advantage, when it's in your city or your state. But when the judge in Alabama ruled against Bediako, that was sort of maybe a shifting of the guard that these judges are going to do more than just home court, and that they're going to look and see whatever it is they decide legally is the right thing. If you ask me what's different about Aguilar's deal than Diego Pavia's, heck if I know. I really don't. I don't understand half this stuff. We've got kids playing until they're 50. They bring their AARP card to the field. We've got a messed up system.
That's honestly, George, what's frustrating about all this is if you're passionate and you cover this stuff, you cover college athletics, when it gets around the offseason, you basically have to be a legal expert because a lot of these issues are happening in the courtroom. And while you brought up the Bediako deal, and that's significant because he got overruled in his home state, and so did Aguilar, these cases are different, from Trinidad Chambliss's case to Bediako to Aguilar. But I solely thought that he'd get the extra year because while they may be a little different, the argument is pretty similar.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to pretend to act like I know, because I don't know. I don't totally understand all of this stuff. I think the sports world, the college world, needs some of this to simmer down. we all like the games on Saturday. They can't destroy that, but they're really starting to destroy the pleasure of, off season and hot stove league, if you want to call it that, because all it is courtroom USA.
Yep. Yeah.
That's all it is.
And George, honestly, I think that, when people pose the question, is college football broken? Are college sports in general broken? I don't think they're broken, because as long as, let's take this, for example. You're watching Ohio State, Michigan. It's a tie game going into the final minutes. It's 3rd and goal, and that crowd's at full throat. As long as that feeling still feels the same, college sports in my mind are not broken. But because we don't have games to distract us right now, a lot of us are focusing on this, and that's when, you take the fun out of the off season.
Oh, sure. I mean, that's long since happened. They're never going to be able to destroy Saturday, in college football, but they are taking a lot of the joy out of, what goes on off the field to get you to Saturday. And I think a lot of us have reached a point where we really don't want to know how the sausage is made.
Right. And the example I like to use is National Signing Day in high school. Do you remember how big of a deal that used to be, with your Jadeveon Clowneys committing to South Carolina after, like, all those signings used to be such a big deal. And now half the people don't even know when National Signing Day is. It already happened, but most people didn't even know that it was National Signing Day. So if you keep peeling back the layers of the onion, eventually you're going to dilute the product, which I hope never happens.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was never one to spend a lot of time on recruiting. It in a lot of cases, it's a lot of nonsense. I used to do I did a commercial one time promoting the fact that our show in the 90s wasn't going to get into all that nonsense. And I used this fictitious name, Billy Joe Biff Bob. And, the commercial basically was that Billy Joe Biff Bob had a cousin from another side of his family who said that Billy Joe was going to such and such. And so I've never been one to really get into recruiting. I don't give a damn. I find it kind of boring. I'm a lot more interested in, once they get there, who wins and loses.
Yeah. And, recruiting isn't for everybody. I personally, I really loved it. And I know, what the NFL draft is to NFL fans, sometimes, with signing day, it was that way to college fans. So I hope we never get to that point where it's completely diluted, but who knows at this point?
We're already there.
Yeah, right. So in other college football news, Curt Cignetti has received a bump in his salary. He is now making $13.2 million. His salary goes up from 11.6. There wasn't a contract extension, but because Indiana won 3 playoff games, made it to the national championship, won that, you get a bump because of the incentives. So he's now making $13.2 million. He is one of 3 active head coaches in college football to be making $13 million. The other 2, Kirby Smart, no surprise there, and Lane Kiffin at LSU.
Yep. I remember when Spurrier got to over $1 million, and that's when the whole cycle just took off.
Yeah. So crazy. And his contract is set to run through 2033. Shouldn't be a surprise. You win a national championship in Indiana, they'll treat you like a king. So Curt Cignetti is certainly being treated that way, and he has his own bowl at Chipotle too. So nice bump there. In the NFL, Nate Scheelhaase has been promoted to the Rams offensive coordinator role. That should not be a surprise either, because he was getting head coaching interviews and he was in the mix for the Browns job. My guess is you do a good job this year, which if you have Stafford, you're going to look pretty good, that he'll get a head coaching job in the next cycle.
but it will also lead to the questions of he's not the offensive coordinator. Sean McVay is.
We all know.
Sean McVay's the guy calling the plays. And so when this guy ultimately gets a head coaching job, is he ready for it, or is he Brian Callahan, good guy who really wasn't equipped?
That's always the question that you have to ask yourself. But the theme in the NFL, if you're a coordinator at any point under Shanahan, you're a coordinator at any point under McVay, you're going to be in the mix for a couple head coaching jobs.
Yep. McVay has earned that.
He has, and so is Shanahan. So that is the kind of the big news coming out of the NFL front. College basketball. My gosh, George, this truly irritated me because I picked Austin Peay to beat North Florida yesterday. North Florida was in 21. Austin Peay is number one. They're a projected 14 seed in Lenardi's latest bracketology. And they had the most bizarre ending to a game I've ever seen. They called a timeout at the end of the game when they didn't have any. So when that happens, you're given a technical foul. North Florida had 2 opportunities at free throws. They missed one. They made the second one. So North Florida's up 76-75. 1.2 seconds remaining. Austin Peay throws basically a touchdown pass. It's tipped off one of the North Florida players. One of the Austin Peay guys gets it, puts it in, and they win the game. They won, but I thought they'd win by 11.5 or more. So bad beat on my part.
Well, they were never close to pulling that line. They were down. I kept checking on it. They were down at some point double digits. This is one where, you'd rather be lucky than good. They didn't play well at all. Didn't deserve to win, but every once in a while you get lucky.
I thought that would be a slam dunk because North Florida had 6 wins coming into that thing, and I just needed to pick me up, and I lose that. It's just been like, George, I'm starting to believe that there's a curse attached to my name, and if Austin Peay would have lost last night, I would have just quit all out.
Yeah, well, a lot of people who try to do this feel the same way.
Oh my gosh, the college basketball slate tonight is actually not bad. Of course, you have the Fox primetime game between Indiana and Purdue from Mackey. That should be interesting because it's a rivalry game. Indiana needs a little help with their resume in order to get into the NCAA tournament. Excellent opportunity for them. And then in the A-10, you have St. Louis, who's coming off of a random midweek loss to Rhode Island. They take on VCU, who's trying to steal a bid. So that should be fun. And then tomorrow, obviously, you got Tennessee and Vanderbilt. We're going to preview that a lot with Mark Griffin. That is at 1 o'clock on ESPN. And then we get the Final Four in February. Arizona and Houston at 2 on ABC, and then Michigan and Duke on ESPN at 5:30.
Oh, there's even more than that. There's BYU, Iowa State.
Yep.
Like at 9:30. It's a crazy weekend. I don't know that it separates a lot as far as wins and losses, but it'll be entertaining. There's no doubt about that.
It is going to be phenomenal. And I cannot understand why there are some people out there who wait to watch college basketball until the tournament. I can never wrap my mind around that. Tennessee, the Lady Vols, they have been struggling, to say the least, have lost 3 in a row. And if you look who they have upcoming on their schedule, they're at Oklahoma, they're at LSU, and then they end the season with Vanderbilt at home. George, there's a good chance they lose out and end up 16-12 and barely squeak in to the tournament.
16-12 gets them in?
Yeah, just because they're the Lady Vols, I'd say. They have 2 good wins. They beat Kentucky and they beat Alabama on the road. So that may be just enough by the skin of their teeth.
Well, they're definitely a program that's in some turmoil.
Yeah.
I think that's a good understatement.
Yeah, good understatement. I've had some doubts about Kim Caldwell. I like her and I really want it to pan out with her, but I just don't know. And I forgot to mention this at the top of the hour, but Vanderbilt is currently taking on Marist. So that is why we are not on 94.9 The Fan. We should be back to regularly scheduled programming on Monday, but as of right now, we are live stream only on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. So with that, we will head to our first break. When we come back, we're going to chat with our buddy Mark Griffin because there's a lot of college basketball, as we just alluded to, and we got some things to discuss. This is the George Plaster Show.
When I got my first car, my dad told me, keep the gas tank full and my number on speed dial. Now parents are telling their kids, save 615-242-9000 just in case. I'm Blair Durham. If you or someone you love is in a wreck, call us. We're here to get you the money you deserve.
It's easy to say good things about the folks at Strike and Spare Family Fun Centers. Number one, I trust them with something that's near and dear to me, the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. But more importantly, I see the fun people have. They enjoy the bowling, they enjoy the camaraderie, and you will too. Come by any of their locations and get ready to have some fun.
At Wilson Bank and Trust, we believe you shouldn't have to choose between personal service and digital solutions. As your local independent bank, we're proud to offer the relationships and trusted service you expect, along with the tools and technology that keep you moving forward. So whether you're growing a business, buying a home, or planning for the future, we're here to help. Because this isn't just where we work, it's where we live too. Wilson Bank and Trust, here to get you there. Member FDIC.
Are you looking for expert medical care in Nashville without leaving your home? Medical House Calls brings concierge-level health care directly to your door. Whether you need urgent attention, ongoing primary care, revitalizing IV therapy, or medically guided weight loss, our experienced providers are just a phone call away at 615-838-2375 or go online, medicalhousecalls.com. If you are paying too much for your health insurance, you know what? You need to contact the folks at Pancoast Benefits. Pancoast works with businesses and individuals to tackle the high cost of health insurance. Whether you're a business owner, large or small, self-employed, between jobs, or over the age of 65 and in need of a Medicare plan, Pancoast can help. They make understanding your benefits less difficult and more personal. So check them out today, pancoastbenefits.com, or call them at 615-292-3400.
Welcome back into the George Plaster Show. With that, we will bring up our buddy Mark Griffin to talk some college basketball. Mark, before we get into the conversation here, I'm sure you saw the news about Wes Rucker. Just a terrible situation all around. I saw the news late last night and was just heartbroken for the family.
Yeah, it's terrible. I feel for Wes and his family. I got to know Wes through my Knoxville ties. Just a great guy, and a lot of people reached out to me today and group texts mentioning him, and a lot of love out today for him. And it's just very unfortunate. Lets you know the value of life and uncertainty. Live each day to day, because you never know. Something like, I believe it was a car accident, and it's just very unfortunate. I'm really, really sorry for what happened. Yeah, and his sister did put out the GoFundMe. I saw that earlier today on Twitter. So if you're able, I'm sure that the family would greatly appreciate that. Mark, we do have George with us today. I'm sure you heard. Oh.
He's joining us via phone. Go ahead and say hello.
George, look at that suit.
You what?
I'm feeling this suit had to do with, I'm going to assume this had to do with Save the Predator suit. Would I be right, George?
No. One reason I know that for sure, the day that we did the rally, well, hold on a minute, because I got a picture of it right here in the kitchen. The day we did the rally, I was wearing a I guess the old mustard gold Predator jersey. I've got a picture of me up on the stage talking near the end of the rally. So no, that had nothing to do with that. But nice try.
We like to guess because you don't dress up a lot. So when I saw that, I'm like, man, this must have been a big deal. So,
well, you know what? Where they got that picture? The Tennessean, it's probably been 10, 12 years ago, started the Tennessean Sports Awards, and I was the MC of it the first year, and Peyton Manning was the kind of the speaker. They paid him 6 figures. They paid me 0 figures. And but at least I was respectable.
Well, I don't know many events where Peyton Manning's not getting paid, unfortunately for you, George, but there you go.
Yeah. The problem is he doesn't need it, and I do.
Don't we all?
Oh, yeah, a few extra M's would be nice, I'm sure. Griff, let's go ahead and start here because I know you were at the Lady Vols game versus Texas last Sunday,
Yes.
if I'm correct about that. They are on a 3-game losing streak, and I just read off their schedule. You're at Oklahoma, at LSU, and then you end with Vanderbilt. Things are not looking too good for the Lady Vols right now.
Not looking too good on the hill. Not at all. And I tell you what, though, one thing about going to a Lady Vols basketball game, outside of the 40 minutes of play, they really stepped up their entertainment for the fans. And the men's doesn't even compare. And I know, people now are really talking about, hey, the value of going to a game. And we were really impressed with the performance they put on during timeouts, etc. Just a great game. I was there. I wanted to see Booker. I've been so impressed with Booker, number 35 for Texas, a hell of a player, of course, coach, legend. And Tennessee hung in there the whole game. And, if you didn't have 9 turnovers from Cooper, even though she played tremendous offensively, but, man, 9 turnovers. I've never seen 9 turnovers in college. I don't know if you guys have. But I guess when you don't have depth to take her out, when you're having turnovers, like you see with Barnes, 1 turnover, you're coming out. With her, she's leaving them in. And that was an unfortunate loss. But the one that was perplexing to me, and I didn't see this game, was the recent home game when they lost to, was that Mississippi State? Or no, Texas A&M.
It was, A&M last night.
The other night. And I looked at the score and I had to double check. I'm like, hold on, is this wrong? I mean, you can't lose to A&M, who was like a 500 team. I mean, that's embarrassing for Tennessee Lady Vol followers. It's embarrassing.
So if they lose out, do you still see a world in which they get in the tournament?
That's a good one. I mean, they're descending like Auburn men's basketball. I mean, could they play their way out? I think they could. Now it's funny, and this may be before you, Parker, but I know George will remember this. But back in the day, they used to look at the committee looked at your last 10 games, and they don't use that criteria anymore. But I still think it's fresh with any committee member. You do remember how you've played lately. And could this affect them? Oh, no doubt. If they lose out and then get beat the first round of the SEC, I no doubt think that they won't make it, that they will not make it. And their schedule works against them. I'm going to be going to the Vanderbilt game because I cannot wait to see Blake's play.
Man, she's something else.
Something else, man. Just exciting. And then I watched McMahon play for Ole Miss. First time I've seen her, the transfer from Ohio State. Man, what a hell of a player. I mean, there's some great athletes that are playing in the SEC this year that's just really fun to watch. Some great matchups. But, no, it's not looking good for the Lady Vols. But, maybe they can surprise us and turn it around. It's just it's not the trajectory you would like.
So I've never witnessed, a postseason in which they're not in the tournament. So if they were to miss out, what would the reaction of the fan base be?
Well, I don't. It's funny you say that. If I'm not a historian, but I don't think they've ever not made the tournament.
They haven't. Yeah.
So that would be a big blow, a huge blow. You would hate to be on that staff and be the first not to make the NCAA tournament with the great history of the Lady Vols over the years when they were I think it was, George, you may be able to help me. Before it was even NCAA, it was like AIAW or something. It was a whole different league. And they've just been a presence throughout the history, the last, 45 to 50 years. I hope we don't see that, but I have a feeling that she's not getting a lot of sleep here in the last few days.
My guess would be probably not. And to the men's side, very big game tomorrow at Vanderbilt. And earlier today, I said on radio that I thought Duke Miles would be back, and a lot of people decided to run away with that. And, they took me as an insider and were like, oh, Duke Miles is playing. No, it's just a hunch. We're not going to know until the injury report comes out. But just how big, if Vanderbilt is able to get Duke Miles back, because I know you wanted to talk about him, just how big of a get would that be for them?
Let me butt in. It's more than a hunch at this point. It's now a likely probability.
There we go.
Frankie Collins, not going to happen.
Yep.
He'll never play another minute at Vandy.
Well, that's huge. You saw how Vanderbilt fared without Duke on the floor the last game. And I'd mentioned this on your show several times. When you've got Nickel, when you've got Tanner, and you've got Miles, you can afford to have one player not shoot so well. But when you're down a player and either Tanner or Nickel doesn't fare well, they're not going to win. When you've got Miles on the court, you've got a great threesome to score. And that is so hard to defend, three perimeter scores, and they spread it out so well. Even McLaughlin can step out and shoot a three. And they're getting more minutes from Bing, the freshman, which is really, to me, surprising. I didn't know who he was. I was like, is that Dave Bing's grandkid? I didn't know, George.
I
Dave Bing is.
Thought it was the character from Friends.
Well, there you go. Well, see, for us older people, we think about Dave Bing from the Pistons. I think it was Pistons or Cleveland. Was it Pistons, George?
Pistons.
Yeah. So, but good for Vandy to go deep. So with Miles playing, that's going to move the spread. He's that impactful of a player. I think it's a great story about him. I'm not a fan of transfers, period. I think you should get one and you're done. I think you just got to suck it up. And if the coach leaves, okay, then maybe an exception and then one. But this is his fourth school. He started off at Troy, went to High Point, and then he went in the SEC to Oklahoma and left that program and has really blossomed at Vanderbilt. Excuse me. He was not even a double-digit scorer at Oklahoma, but Byington and staff saw something in him, and I'm just really impressed with him. Especially when you look at his stats here, when you got a guard that's shooting almost 89%, you want that ball in his hands at the end of the game.
Griff, we're going to have you on at some point in the offseason because you brought up the transferring within conference. We don't have time to talk about that, but you almost got me going because that's one of my biggest pet peeves. So let's actually talk about the X's and O's, and then we could get to the legal stuff another time. You look at the stats between UT and Vanderbilt. What sticks out to you the most?
Well, one of the big things that sticks out to me is I look at this team as far as Vanderbilt with rebounds, looking at them being 133rd in the country, and then looking at UT's strength is 43. Now, the interesting thing about it is if Vanderbilt shoots well from the field goal percent, it's not going to really matter as far as offensive rebounds. And I didn't break that down as far as offense and defensive rebounds. But one thing that stood out for both teams is the high field goal percent, shooting. Vanderbilt 48 too. That's really high. Tennessee's been moving up a lot as far as 47-1. And then you've got their ranking, and that's out of 365 teams that I put together. Another impressive stat for Vanderbilt, and I mentioned it earlier about Duke, is the confidence that this team has when they go to the free throw line. So a close game, and this is what concerns me about tomorrow. I'm not even concerned as much about Vanderbilt having to rebound tremendously well. I think they just need to be within 10 rebounds or so. That's not the significant issue to me. It's the free throw shooting, because at the end of the game, and you look at Tennessee at 69.9, that's a concern because they've got 3 of their big guys that are in the 60s. And their guards have fared well. Ament's free throw percentage has gone up at least 10 points over the last month. But that leans towards Vanderbilt as a whole because they shoot 78%. I mean, that's a tremendous free throw percent and gives them a huge advantage, even over the advantage they have playing at home tomorrow, which you know is going to be packed.
Yeah, no doubt. So the rebounding clear, because Tennessee, I mean, they're outside of Florida. They're the second best rebounding team in the SEC. And I was asked today, who needs this win more, Vanderbilt or Tennessee? And honestly, I can make a case for either one. Vanderbilt's coming off the loss to Missouri on Wednesday night, which scares me as a fan because they'll be extra motivated. Plus, they're at home, and Memorial Magic is a very real thing. But Tennessee's won 7 out of their last 8, with their last 2 losses coming to the same team in Kentucky. So I'm going to ask you, who needs this win more tomorrow?
Well, I'll go with this. I think when you're playing at home, and I hate to use the SEC term, just means more, but I think you got to protect your home court. It is, like, to me, a double loss when you lose at home. So I think it means more to Vanderbilt. Now, it means a lot to both of them. I mean, they're both playing for a top 4 seed. Top 4 seed gets you a double bye in the SEC tournament here in Nashville. That's huge. You get to rest your guys. You get to scout a little bit more, even another practice or 2, which is so important. More time on the free throws line during practice. But, I mean, it's big for Tennessee. I would be happy as a Tennessee fan for a split. I'm not expecting Tennessee to come away with a win tomorrow. Not expecting it, but at the same time, the way Ament's been playing and Gillespie, especially the ascent of Ament lately, and I was at the game the other night. I was unfortunately sitting close to Coach Barnes and staff at the game, and I could hear him running plays for Ament. And I'm like, I thought he was more of a system guy, and then Ament was able just to get the ball, but he's been really targeting him more lately, which is necessary. And Ament has just exploded. So when you got a guy like that can carry you, wants the ball during tense times, even on the road, I think it's going to be a great game. Great game. But I'm leaning towards Vanderbilt right now, and I'm going to stick with that because it's just something about that, Jim, and with the ball in Ty Tanner's hands and how he takes care of the ball, doesn't make just bad turnovers. And we've seen that with Tennessee, unfortunately, bad timing of turnovers. You're going to have turnovers. If you can keep them under 12, great. But it's how bad are the turnovers? Do you throw the ball away and there's a transition layup? That's a bad turnover. If you force it in and it just goes to the baseline and you're able to get down the court, not a bad turnover.
Yeah, and I think I'm with you. I think I'm leaning Vanderbilt purely because of the home court advantage. If this was at Tennessee, I'd probably lean towards Tennessee. But honestly, I think this is going to be an epic game tomorrow in Nashville. I got one more quick one for you, then we can head to break, and I'll just turn it over to George completely. But this Darren Peterson situation has added a new chapter to the book. He had 23 points in 18 minutes at Oklahoma State on Wednesday, pulled himself out of the game. Bill Self was asked about it, and he didn't know what to say. And if you're a scout and you're wanting to draft this guy, he's projected to be the number 1 overall pick. How much concern do you have?
Huge. I mean, when did load management come into college? I never thought that was a term for college now. And he's the definition of what they call, was it load management, where you limit your minutes. And I keep hearing these different excuses, cramps, headache. I mean, you really got to look into it. And any scout or GM that's seriously considering him, they're going to have to really dive in even more now into his background. Was this consistent during his younger years? Is this a phenomenon this season? How bad is his health? Is there something else that we're not aware of? Because coaches do a good job, and staff, of hiding things from the media because they don't want you to know. How many times have we heard the next season where, like, let's say a quarterback was playing with a broken thumb, and you're like, well, God, I wish we knew that last year. I wouldn't have been so hard on you, or why were you playing in the first place? But they'll admit it a year later, but not during that time. So is there anything else health-wise going on with him? To me, it's a major issue, and people should be digging in to find out. I personally, I mean, I'm not a scout, but I would really have to look at you have to look at the risk ratio to say, hey, how much different is it between him and DeBastia from BYU? BYU kid is unbelievable, and I don't know how much better Peterson is than him.
Yeah, because you did make the comment last week that you thought DeBastia was ready to go straight to the NBA out of high school. You thought
Out
he was
of high
the best.
school.
Yeah, so
As
and
a
honestly,
junior.
I mean,
Finishing his junior year, Parker. I saw him as a junior. He could have played. I mean, everyone was mesmerized by him. There were hundreds of people, and you can only fit so many people in these small gyms where they're playing travel ball. Everyone was watching him, and everyone was shaking their head like, this guy is incredible.
Yeah. I can't. Well, they have a big game versus Iowa State tomorrow, so we'll have to see if the Cougars can pull that one off. We're going to go hit this break. On the other side, I turn it over to George. He'll pepper you with questions now. This is the George Plaster Show.
When I got my first car, my dad told me, keep the gas tank full and my number on speed dial. Now parents are telling their kids, save 615-242-9000 just in case. I'm Blair Durham. If you or someone you love is in a wreck, call us. We're here to get you the money you deserve.
Smashville hockey. Around here, it can sound like a language of its own. But hey, if you can pronounce Demumbrian, then names like Yossi, Shea, Marchessault will roll right off the tongue. Nashville Predators, only in Smashville.
Sports and Social in Green Hills Mall is the new home for our Football Night in Nashville promotion. Their food is terrific. Their TV setup looks like a racing sports book in Vegas. And if you're a sports fan, you can't beat it. Starting September the 4th, we'll broadcast from Sports and Social every Thursday night. There's Pop-A-Shot, great football, and the chance to win a beautiful Mikey's Motors golf cart. See you at Sports and Social in Green Hills Mall. Here's Officer Garen Hoskins for the Metro Nashville Police Department.
The Metro Nashville Police Department is on the forefront of policing in this century, and I'm glad I'm a part of it. I'm glad I get to find other good officers, other future good officers. And if you're watching today, or you yourself or someone you happen to know is interested, join MNPD.com. Feel free to reach out to us because we need good officers, and it's a great city to work for.
You've heard me talk about the putting zone. Well, guess what? It's now open, and it offers a revolutionary indoor golf experience featuring state-of-the-art putting surfaces designed to replicate real-world course conditions. It allows players of all skill levels to practice, compete in tournaments, and connect year-round. Go by and see them at 3040 Sidco Drive and tell them Plaz sent you.
Welcome back into the Plaster Show. We're continuing our conversation with our buddy Mark Griffin. George, take it away.
Okay, Mark, in about 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, the SEC tournament will come here. And on the opening night, the bottom 4 teams will end up playing in some order that has yet to be determined. I feel pretty confident there'll be coaching changes at South Carolina and at LSU. I think both of those coaches are dead man walking. I don't see Ole Miss firing Chris Beard. I don't. The one that I'm not sure about is Oklahoma with Porter Moser.
Yeah.
They had a really good win here a couple of weeks ago against Vandy. But other than that,
that's the only good win they've had, George.
Yeah. Well, what do you think?
I think you add them to the list of dead men walking. I'd mentioned this the other day to a close friend of mine that's a big Oklahoma fan. 4th year. And what he's shown for it is a second round of an NIT and a first round last year of the NCAA tournament, and they're going nowhere this year at all. They'll be lucky to be 500 at the end of the season. Bad loss against Tennessee. A couple good guard transfers that they had. Kid from St. Joseph's, Xavier Brown, and Nigel Pack, who really impressed me the other night. He came from Kansas State, and then he transferred to Miami, led them to a Final Four in 23. But other than that, not much. So I think if he needs to be concerned as well. Yeah.
So I want to kind of piggyback off what y'all have talked about with the Tennessee Vandy game, because Mark, over the years, I have probably seen 70 of these in person in all these years. Obviously, more of them at Memorial Gym than in Knoxville. I've seen 3 of them in the SEC tournament. This is one of those times where both of them are really good. And to me, there's not a hair's difference between them, unless Ament on Tennessee's side takes a really aggressive, give me the ball and get the hell out of the way, which I think he needs to do more of. Who do you think Vandy guards him with?
I'm going to butcher his name because I'm the king of butcher. The former walk-on, was it Okereke?
Yeah.
Is that how you pronounce his name?
Yep.
I think he's their best defensive athlete. I think you have to put him on him. He's got a stud body. I think he's about 6'8" or so. I think that's a natural matchup for Vanderbilt to go with him. And then, of course, they're going to shade guys. If he blows by Okereke, they're going to be looking out for him. They're going to bump, bruise, whatever they can do when he drives. But I think it's Okereke's. I think Coach Byington's going to say, "Hey, contain them the best you can. You got 5 fouls. Let's get 4 out of you, and maybe even a 5th. I mean, why not? Why not foul them out at the end of the game if need be? If you can slow Ament down, that's a win for Vanderbilt. If you can contain Ament with Okereke, I just think it's going to be him. I don't know who else on Vanderbilt that can guard him, George. I really don't. I mean, James Washington's not a good matchup, and McLaughlin, he'll blow right by him. Now, McLaughlin, he'll muscle him up, but as far as the best athlete defensively for Vanderbilt, it's got to be Okereke.
So help me with this. The night I watched Tennessee dismantle Alabama, in particular in the second half down in Tuscaloosa, what I saw was a level that I had not seen out of Tennessee, a level that felt more like a 2 or a 3 seed than sort of this 5, 6, 4 maybe. I just saw something different. I saw a team that just, number one, couldn't miss, and just totally dominated the second half. Do you think that changed how Barnes started coaching this team?
Well, I'll spin it a little bit. I think it got the players to buy in more because Barnes is going to coach them hard regardless. You turn the ball over, you're coming out. Period. You don't play defense, you're coming out. But with that huge victory on the road, I think solidified the team. Probably had a great time on the way back home. A lot of joy, accomplishment, probably more focused to say, hey, we can play against this top talented team because top to bottom, I feel Alabama is the most talented team in the SEC. Didn't say best. I think I'll stick to Florida. But just such a big win. And Georgia, it's funny, I've been thinking about this today. I may be wrong in my reflection of Tennessee. I've always been saying from minute one, you've got to have that third scorer that's a perimeter player. You got to have that third scorer, perimeter player. And every game I watch, I'm like, these guys are good inside. And Gillespie really makes them go. Boswell, steady. And he's given Tennessee fans and coaching staff more than they ever thought they were going to get out of him. I saw him play in high school for CP3 in Rock Hill, South Carolina. Good player, but I didn't know he would be at this level, confidence-wise as well. He's playing with a lot of confidence. But they have inside presence that concerns a lot of teams. Not to look ahead far, but I think – I will for a second, but if you go into the NCAA tournament, Michigan, where are they strong? Inside. Who's the only team besides maybe Arizona that can match up with Michigan inside? I think Tennessee could. I really do. And they've got 3 NBA inside players. So even the other night, Estrella's out. Akpara, great game. Stepped up. Carey, steady. Brown, consistent. Getting minutes off the bench. What'll be really ironic and interesting for me, George, because I'll be at that game tomorrow as well, is how will the fans treat Carey? Or do they even care? Do they even know anything about him? I mean, will they have signs up, or will they just, back in the day, you had the designated player they would boo that was a guard that got the ball. Will it be Carey when he enters or when he ever does get the ball inside? That's one of the side things I'll be looking for is how does Carey handle coming back to Nashville? Because he said a few things about this Vanderbilt team and program that he probably should have kept to himself. How will he respond? Will he be too high? Because as an athlete, you don't want to get too high, too low. If he's trying to prove how good he is and gets outside of the range where he should be playing, then he will affect Tennessee in a negative manner. So how's his mental status going to be tomorrow?
Student bodies do. And, he'll have to try to ignore all of that, although that's easier said than done. In the end, it kind of came down to him and Byington going at it one day in practice. And Carey said something to Byington that maybe he regrets. I don't know. But I know that began kind of the downward spiral that really hadn't gotten talked about at all. But I know what he said, and I'm not going to repeat it.
Yeah.
But that will be an interesting little sidebar to this. So let me toss one last thing at you. I can't figure Kentucky out. They're bad enough to get booed off the court against Gonzaga. They're bad enough that Vanderbilt beat the ever-living snot out of them here. They're bad enough to lay an egg against Georgia, but they're good enough to beat Tennessee twice, go to Arkansas and win. I can't figure them out.
Well, no one can. I mean, it's perplexing. What we have figured out, which was projected from preseason, is Oweh is definitely a contender to be SEC Player of the Year. He's not going to get it. I mean, I think that's going to obviously go to Acuff, but Oweh has really stepped up his game. The problem, you haven't seen much consistency with anyone else. It's like it's Oweh and everyone else is just watching. And then I don't think there's enough emphasis on defense. I don't know why or why. And that's effort. I mean, you don't, they always say you don't coach effort. You just exude effort. And for Kentucky, even though I'm not a fan of Kentucky, when I watch them, I shake my head sometimes. I'm like, why aren't they playing harder on defense? Where's the enthusiasm? They're just waiting on Oweh to do something. So, but you're right. They do step up every now and then, have big wins, and, obviously huge comeback wins against Tennessee. What I did like seeing, a little side note, is Sompto Sorrell, that plays for Georgia. I don't know if they talked about this the other night or not, but he signed with Kentucky and Calipari, and then Calipari bolted, and Sompto didn't go to Arkansas. He went to Georgia. Well, he played with EAB organization here out of Middle Tennessee, and just the hardest dunking player I've ever seen in my life, even harder than the guy from Philadelphia 76ers. What was the guy, George? Dunking machine back in the day. He used to name his dunks. Please forgive me. I'm having a brain fart.
Chocolate Thunder.
Yeah, Chocolate Thunder. Yeah. So
Chocolate Thunder?
Yeah, he's the hardest. He dunked. He would name his dunks. Tell his name again, George. I didn't hear you.
Daryl Dawkins.
Daryl Dawkins. Yeah, right out of high school. Look him up, Parker. It's fun. It'll be a fun watch.
Chocolate Thunder.
And anybody else under 35, look him up. Number 53, incredible player. But nonetheless, Sompto would dunk harder than anybody I've ever seen. Best shot blocker I ever saw in high school. And he hit a big three-point shot at the end against Kentucky. And if you recall, he was laying on the floor just screaming out. And I really felt for him. It was just like, man, I'm going to beat Kentucky at Kentucky. And yet I signed with Kentucky. Things didn't work out. But at the end of the game, I'm going to beat you. And I contributed. And I thought that was really cool for Georgia, because I never thought Georgia would win. I didn't know their stats back that they only won 4 or 5 games in 40 years or whatever. But for them to pull out that victory in Lexington, I was shocked.
That's a big one. Parker, take it away.
All right, Griff, we really appreciate the time. Enjoy all the basketball. We basically get the Final Four in February, so I'm really excited. Enjoy the basketball this weekend, and we'll talk to you next Friday.
Great. Thanks for having me. Good to see you guys.
See you tomorrow, Mark.
All right, yeah, hit me up.
That was our buddy Mark Griffin with our college hoops report. On the other side of the break, let's get into this Joey Aguilar situation. This is the George Plaster Show. Now time for our stat of the day, brought to you by Apple Collision Centers. Let's see what we have here. The Pistons look like a legitimate threat in the East this year, but when was the last time they won a playoff series?
Oh gosh. Wow. It might be back when Dwayne Casey was the coach. Dwayne Casey was a former University of Kentucky assistant. He was a former Western Kentucky assistant where I got to know him. This may be about 10 years ago. I'll just take a stab in the dark. 2015.
2015? 2008 was the last time they won a playoff series.
Wow.
All right.
It's been a while.
Yeah, they I have not watched a lick of the NBA this year, but it looks like they are doing pretty well. So with that,
they're doing very well.
With that, we welcome you into the 4 o'clock hour here on the Plaster Show. Just got done talking with our buddy Mark Griffin, getting the latest on all things college basketball. But I told you this is going to be a very University of Tennessee heavy show today. Baseball team is actually in action right now with kicking off their series with Kent State. But the big news is Joey Aguilar getting denied his preliminary injunction. And that means that he is ineligible for the 2026 season and thus ending his college career. So we are going to talk about, one, why it was denied, because to be honest, I am a little confused. And here's my whole premise on all of this, George. I was not in favor of Diego Pavia getting the extra year because I don't like that, we have people playing until they're 23, 24, 25. It takes away from the high schoolers. I think it's bad for the sport. So therefore, I didn't want Joey Aguilar to get it either. However, when Pavia was given the extra year, I think that therefore in turn means that Joey Aguilar should get the extra year because the precedent was set. So that's kind of where my mind is with all of this. And again, I'm not in favor of it, but that was the precedent that was set by the judges.
Well, look, I'm not going to pretend to sit here and try to explain this because I don't get it. I don't know what constitutes winning in court and what doesn't. Is it that Pavia had a better attorney? I don't know. I just know the whole system's screwed up. When you've got kids that are, on the verge of meeting with Medicare people, for their 9th and 10th year of college, something about all this is messed up. But we knew that before this decision ever came down. Here's the thing. There's been this feeling now for a while that the best of Josh Heupel has already happened at Tennessee. For the first time since he's been there, Vandy ripped them around pretty good, scored 45 on them. They played the bowl game completely disinterested. And now they've got a really tough schedule, and they don't really know what's what at quarterback. And there's always been this belief that for a Heupel system to succeed, he's got to have great play at quarterback. Well, is he going to get that? I don't know. I mean, I certainly know a little bit about one of the candidates, George McIntyre, because, I've grown up in and around the McIntyre family going back into the late 70s. So there's a part of me rooting for him. I hear things like, he hadn't been able to put enough weight on, that they worry that, he's too fragile. I don't know. But I know this, all of a sudden, that there's some real questions that nobody can answer about Tennessee football.
Here's what I think, and obviously there was no way the Vols were put in a very bad position last year, Josh Heupel specifically, of when Nico left in the spring, that nobody saw that coming. And it just happened that UCLA had Joey Aguilar, and he was expected to be their starter, going throughout the spring as their starter. When Nico transfers back home to UCLA and the Vols get Joey Aguilar, this just kind of fell in their lap. And honestly, I thought Joey Aguilar played very well. And I thought Josh Heupel was able to maximize Joey Aguilar's talents. So that whole part about Josh Heupel being a QB guru is true. And again, nobody saw that Nico situation coming. You go 8-5, that's not going to be put up with well among the Tennessee fan base. So now you're going into this year, and you have Faison Brandon, who is going to be a true freshman. You have George McIntyre, who is going to be entering his second year. And from what I've heard and the people that I've talked to, George McIntyre has a very solid reputation among the team. Josh Heupel loves him. His problem is he hasn't been able to put on weight. And I know that they're, giving him a bunch of protein shakes. They're giving him these high-calorie smoothies after workouts to try to do whatever they can to get him to beef up a little bit. They brought in a new strength coach from Indiana to help out. So, but the problem is none of these guys have played in the SEC before.
Right. And that doesn't guarantee that they can't. But boy, it creates, questions from February until they actually play. And this is kind of unusual territory for Tennessee. And it's a little bizarre that it comes out of a court decision, because it's a court decision. Deep down, I thought they'd win. I thought it would simply be home court. But when the Alabama judge didn't just rubber stamp Bediako, that gave me a little cause for pause that, okay, maybe these judges are doing more than just rubber stamping. And it looks like this guy Haggerty, who may not want his phone number published anytime soon, Knoxville judge went the other way. I didn't see that coming.
I didn't either. I did not either. And it's all of this is, I'm sure, as much as Heupel and company may have liked George McIntyre, they love Faison Brandon as well. I mean, some sites have him as the number one quarterback in the class out of this freshman class. So, but they did whiff in the portal. Sorsby wanted too much money that Tennessee wasn't willing to pay. They wanted Sam Levitt, didn't get Sam Levitt. There was talk about Bo Pribula. I believe that the staff was okay losing out on that one. He goes to Virginia. So now you're stuck with, two young guys that don't really have that SEC experience. So, and Josh Heupel too, George, has been in this limbo of, that in 22, you go 11-2, you win the Orange Bowl. You had Hendon Hooker most of the year. He got hurt. Then it was Joe Milton. You go 8-4. Then it was Nico Iamaleava. You go 10-2. You make the playoff, and you're back to 8 wins. So it's just kind of been back and forth between double-digit wins to 8 wins to double-digit and so forth. Another year of 8-4 is not going to cut it. So there's a lot of pressure on Josh Heupel to get it right.
Yeah. Now, what he has the advantage of is he has an athletic director who hired him. And ultimately, that will be to his advantage. Under the 8-5 kind of mentality won't cut it. Well, it's still a hell of a lot better than a couple of the people that preceded him. It's going to lead to a lot of, okay, what really is the Tennessee job in this modern era? Is it a national title contender, or is it a program that's good enough to get you to a bowl game, close to New Year's Day, but really not much else?
And part of me too, and I can speak from this because I am a fan, but there is a lot of I don't know if being spoiled is the right word. George may think that is the case, but you got to remember where this team was under Butch Jones, heck, under Derek Dooley, under Jeremy Pruitt, and Josh Heupel kind of got this team from wandering in the wilderness to, being able to make the playoffs, being able to play in the New Year's Six bowl game in 22. I don't know. I'm worried. I have concerns for this year, and I was actually a little surprised. Part of me was surprised when he decided to move on from Tim Banks, because Josh Heupel has, and it's the buddy system, and for a lot of coaches, it is that way. You naturally go with what you know, and he had a relationship with Tim Banks prior, but he decided to part ways with him, and you bring in Jim Knowles, who I thought that was a great hire. He brings along a lot of the Penn State players that he had from a year ago. So they're implementing that into the defense. You bring in a new strength coach, you move on from Kurt Schmidt. So Josh Heupel's been very uncomfortable hiring people that he hasn't previously worked with, which I think is great. But then quarterback, I mean, it's the biggest position in all of sports. So you don't have a quarterback, and none of that really matters.
Look, it's hard to do a crystal ball on where Tennessee athletics is or isn't. By the way, the United States is up now 5-1 in the Olympic thing. I think you can sort of, pencil them in to the final against Canada.
Was it Slovakia that just scored, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is their first goal. It turned into an inter-squad scrimmage game in the second period.
Up 5-0.
Here's what's hard to tell. Number one, you've got a football program that appears to have plateaued a little bit. Is that fair?
Yep.
Okay. You've got a situation in basketball where it's hard to imagine Rick Barnes being at Tennessee more than another year or two. You got a baseball coach that left for the San Francisco Giants, who won a national title, but little by little you hear little pieces of, in the end he was fed up with Danny White. And I think what is going to start to happen is that Danny White's going to be under a lot more scrutiny than he has been since he's been here. Danny White has been, since he's been there, a guy that just tells the Tennessee fan base to give until it hurts. And that works really well when you're winning 11 or 12 games in football and your basketball's going to the Elite Eight and your baseball's going to the national title. But when you have a little bit of a plateau, that kind of arrogance out of your athletic director will have the fans start to say, screw him. And I think there's going to be some of that. I really do.
And Danny White has done a phenomenal job thus far. But George, what I keep thinking of throughout this whole situation is the fatigue that people give in this NIL era, because the salary cap, the House settlement that was passed, the $20.5 million cap that the school is allowed to give to the athletes, that's going to continue to go up. That was part of this whole thing. So the fatigue of, the boosters giving money, eventually that's going to start to wear thin, because unless your name is Cody Campbell and you're down in West Texas and you got all the oil money, you're a billionaire. The average person can't keep just dishing out blank checks. At some point, you're going to get fatigued, because if you're trying to give money so that you can get players to then win a national championship and you're not doing that, at what point do you start to just stop giving the money?
Well, look, you're raising a good point, but I'm going to raise one too, which is the average person isn't participating all that much in NIL. Most of the people that are involved in NIL are what I call team owners, J.R. Ewing wannabes. I could name for you a couple of them at Tennessee that basically are funding the basketball. If you put a gun to my head, I can probably do the same thing on Vandy's end in men's basketball. It's not necessarily the rank and file. It's more of what I would call the J.R. Ewing wannabes. And, those people may have enough money that they don't really experience the donor fatigue. I don't know. I'm not at that level.
Yeah. And I just don't know. I don't know how many, because if you're right, when you're hitting this plateau, especially, with Tennessee and the rich history of football, football has always been the primary focus. It's that way at most schools in Division I, outside of, your North Carolinas, your Dukes and so forth. But if you're hitting a plateau and you're constantly giving this money selfishly too, here's where my mind would be at. If I'm giving all this money and then I'm not seeing results, why would I continue to do it?
Well, to me, Danny White has been a guy that has come in and he's been able to get away with it so far, of just constantly hitting his fan base with new surcharges and new this and new that.
Talent fees.
And and all that crap. And you can get away with that when you're winning big. But when you start getting down toward the mushy middle a little bit more in football, which is what 8-5 feels like at Tennessee, is a little bit more of a mushy middle, then all of a sudden the rank and file starts saying, why am I being ordered to pay all this crap? That I think that's what's going to start to happen, is that there's going to be a lot more scrutiny on Danny White. And let me say up front, I'm not a big fan of Danny White.
I can tell.
I don't think he gives a damn. I don't think he gives a damn about his fan base. He'd make a great executive with the Titans, because they don't either.
I think I personally know people that, had season tickets to all three major sports. And I know the Knoxville News Sentinel, I think Rocky Top Insider, a lot of these outlets that cover the Vols have written stories, because you're increasing the amount, and I know several season ticket holders, you're increasing the amount of money that it takes for, people that have owned season tickets for 20 plus years now, but the prices are getting so high that they can't even afford it anymore. So you're going to end up taxing out your fan base. That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with that at all. I think not only, is Heupel going to come under more scrutiny and questioning, but I absolutely think Danny White is. Like I said, I think he's gotten away with it up till now because they've won at a level that it's easy to just look the other way. But when you get more toward the mushy middle, this is what happens.
And I guess the only way we find out is if this mushy middle continues and football has another 8-5 year. Tennessee basketball never reaches a Final Four under Rick Barnes. Too early to tell right now in baseball, because we haven't seen much of what the Elander era looks like, at least within the baseball program. So who knows? Time will tell us, though. On the other side, we're going to get into the college basketball slate, because there's a lot of good games starting tonight with two. You got a matchup in the A-10, matchup in the Big Ten that should be pretty exciting. We'll get to all that on the other side. This is the George Plaster Show.
When I got my first car, my dad told me, keep the gas tank full and my number on speed dial. Now parents are telling their kids, save 615-242-9000 just in case. I'm Blair Durham. If you or someone you love is in a wreck, call us. We're here to get you the money you deserve.
Venture Express has been helping people in this area for more than 40 years. They're headquartered in Murfreesboro with over 30 years of dedicated fleets involving production, manufacturing, and corrugated experiences. They're an asset-based company with over 700 tractors, 4,000 trailers, and 800 drivers. If you need their help, dial them up 615-793-9500 or log on to ventureexpress.com. You've heard me talk about the putting zone. Well, guess what? It's now open, and it offers a revolutionary indoor golf experience featuring state-of-the-art putting surfaces designed to replicate real-world course conditions. It allows players of all skill levels to practice, compete in tournaments, and connect year-round. Go by and see them at 3040 Sidco Drive and tell them Plaz sent you. Are you looking for expert medical care in Nashville without leaving your home? Medical House Calls brings concierge-level health care directly to your door. Whether you need urgent attention, ongoing primary care, revitalizing IV therapy, or medically guided weight loss, our experienced providers are just a phone call away at 615-838-2375 or go online, medicalhousecalls.com. It's easy to say good things about the folks at Strike and Spare Family Fun Centers. Number one, I trust them with something that's near and dear to me, the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. But more importantly, I see the fun people have. They enjoy the bowling, they enjoy the camaraderie, and you will too. Come by any of their locations and get ready to have some fun.
Welcome back into the George Plaster Show as we are in the final hour of the program for the week, and we were going to get into this college basketball slate because, man, it is a good one. It all starts tonight with VCU and St. Louis in the A-10. That is a 6 p.m. tip-off on ESPN2. St. Louis coming off of a loss to Rhode Island earlier this week, and VCU 21-6, and they are trying to steal a bid for the NCAA tournament. Indiana and Purdue in the Big Ten, 7 p.m. tip-off on Fox. But that's not where I wanted to start. Now, we've previewed a lot of this Vanderbilt-Tennessee game really throughout the week, so I'm going to look at the first really, really big matchup of the day. It comes at 2 o'clock, Arizona and Houston. Houston has the home court advantage. And you remember, on Big Monday, they fell to Iowa State in Ames from Hilton Coliseum. And now you get Arizona, who is coming off of a big win themselves, but they lost. They lost their last 2 games after a 23-0 start. Now they travel to Houston. So, George, Houston's a 5.5-point favorite. What is your read on this one?
Well, first of all, that feels like a couple too many, except that Arizona's had some injury issues that have sort of kind of slowed them down a little bit. When they're at 100%, they feel like the team that has the best shot to go toe-to-toe with Michigan. The one thing you know about Houston is that at home, they just go absolutely crazy. Defensively, they're all over you. It feels like they've got 7 defenders. Man, they play hard for him. To me, the bugaboo with Houston has always been that while they play defense better most nights than any team in the country, there are often nights they can't throw it in the ocean. That they got to shoot the ball. And they've got to shoot it at a national title kind of level if they want to get where they talk about. A year ago, they came closer than at any point since they've been with Kelvin Sampson. But the bugaboo has always been on the offensive side. There's never any question about them on defense.
And that's kind of the same conversation we have with Tennessee and Rick Barnes. But the good news for Houston is they have a stud true freshman in Kingston Flemings at point guard. averaging about 16 and a half points per game, and he's shooting really, really well. So if they're going to get any source of offense, you would assume coming into this game that it's going to be from Kingston Flemings. Arizona kind of matches up similarly to Houston because where they dominate is they're a very good defensive team as well, but they dominate in the paint. And I think that could be a challenge for Houston because they have some size, guys like Chris Sinak and other people like that. But I think Arizona in the paint is they're one of the best teams in the country. So that's where I see the bugaboo for Houston on the defensive side of the ball, but also too, what are they going to get out of Kingston Flemings? Because everything we've seen from him so far leads us to believe that he's going to continue this amazing stretch that he's had.
Well, he's going to continue for another month, and then he's going to the NBA.
Yep.
He's that good.
Yep.
He's a one and done if there ever was one. Look, if you go into Houston and win, you will earn it. You got a crowd that's right on top of you in that building, and you're playing against, in my mind, the best defense in the country. I think night in, night out, Houston gives more effort on the defensive end than any team in the country. It's just simply on offense where there are certain nights when they get beat that they don't throw it in the ocean.
And we'll know. I feel like we'll have a pretty good read on that early, what type of offensive night that they're going to have. But one guy that I want to talk about is actually not a starter for either team. And I'm sure a lot of people that are listening right now will know who I'm getting ready to talk about. And that's Tobe Awaka, who comes off the bench for Arizona. And he is one of the best, and I mean one of the best, sixth men in the country. And he's one of the best rebounders in all of college basketball. But you get him coming off the bench. He's averaging 9.6 rebounds and what he can contribute offensively. Because when Koa Pete went, I think it was their last game. He's one of Arizona's big men. When he went down with injury, Tobe Awaka was forced to step in, and I think he had close to 17 points. So I'm interested to see how he plays tomorrow, George, too.
Yeah, I mean, he's a real luxury coming off the bench because he's a sixth man who has starter ability, and everybody knows that. I don't know the particulars of how he left Tennessee, why he left Tennessee. I just know he's now at Arizona, and that's a huge get for them because he's starter kind of stuff. He's really good.
He would, and they talk about that on the broadcast or whatever, whatever network has Arizona. They always talk about Tobe Awaka, how if he was in on any other team, he's most likely going to be a starter. The other game, the other Final Four caliber game is Michigan and Duke, and it is a real treat that we get this type of out-of-conference matchup this late in the regular season. 5:30 on ESPN, I believe. Dan Schulman and Jay Billis will have the call. So you got the primetime crew in a primetime slot. Michigan is a 2.5-point favorite. And George, I watched the Michigan-Purdue game on Wednesday night. And going into that, it was on Tuesday. We went into that saying that, man, this is a top 7 matchup. This has a chance to be potentially one of the games of the year. And Michigan did whatever they wanted inside of Mackey. Do you think Duke poses a real threat to the way Michigan has been playing lately?
Absolutely. I'd be curious, first of all, how did Washington, D.C. get picked as the neutral site? I'd love to know what it is they did, because that's the kind of game that, you could just as easily have said, this is neutral site at Bridgestone Arena. I wonder how they got that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know.
I don't either. But it's an interesting choice for neutral site. I would assume that both schools probably will have about the same number of fans at the deal. Heck yeah, Duke's good enough to cause them problems. But they're running into a Michigan that appears to have gotten over some issues of 2-3 weeks ago And now they appear to be playing at their A level. And that's scary because their A level feels like it's as good as anybody's in the country.
And their average margin of victory by, any metric that you want to use, at least among the teams that are projected to be in the tournament at this point in time, their average margin of victory is, I think it's number one. I mean, they have just, and if you remember how they were playing early on too, when they had, games versus the Gonzagas of the world and Auburn, I mean, they were just boat racing them. And that's exactly the type of feeling that I had when I was watching them play Purdue. And they seem to be trending up. They haven't lost a game since they lost to Wisconsin back in early January. And it took, 15 threes from Wisconsin in order to beat Michigan. So when you put up a type of historic performance like that and lose, it's understandable. But also, too, I'm really excited to see the size matchup specifically with Cam Boozer, because, George, I know you've watched him. I've watched him. When he gets the ball, and it doesn't matter if he's at the top of the key, if he's inside the arc and he drives and he gets to the basket, it's like he's a bull and there's nobody that can stop him. Well, Michigan has some great size, whether it's Morez Johnson, Ade Mara, Yaxel Lindenberg. That is going to be a fun matchup to watch.
Look, when admittedly Purdue is going through whatever they're going through, and they're not playing as well, and they haven't been for about 3 weeks. But when you go there and you have a double-digit lead basically from beginning to end, man, that gets my attention. That was a big wow for me.
Fast. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they jumped out early, and to be honest, it was not like Purdue made some big run late to get back into it. They just got clobbered. And that tells me that Michigan's really close to whatever their A game is, and their A game's pretty good. They appear to be close to it.
And it is such a treat that we get this in late February. An out-of-conference matchup featuring the number one team in the country. And you can obviously make the case for Duke to be ranked a little bit higher, especially with Houston losing to Iowa State. But regardless, it is going to be such a fun weekend. Now let's get to the other matchup that you brought up, George, that we didn't really talk about as much. But that's Iowa State and it's BYU. Now, I was guilty of this, but I picked against Iowa State at home on Monday. I am no longer doubting Hilton Coliseum and Hilton Magic. This game's not names. It's in Provo at the Marriott Center. And BYU is 7-6 in Big 12 play. They've really, it's a gauntlet. The Big 12 is a gauntlet right now, and BYU's experienced that firsthand. But with Iowa State going on the road, George, how much of an advantage do you feel that gives BYU without Richie Saunders?
Well, I wish BYU were 100% healthy because I would just absolutely come out and say, look, at that Marriott Center, they're going to win, but they're one great player short. And you can, when suddenly BYU is missing one of the two, feels like you can put a lot more on the other guy. You can shade your defense and say, look, we don't have to worry about one of these guys. I think BYU's going to win, but only because they're at home. If this were neutral site, Iowa State.
And I'm torn on this one because the Bansta against Arizona, he had 35? Yeah, 35 points. So he carried a significant load for that BYU team, scoring over half of their points. But is he going to give that to you again versus a great defensive team in Iowa State? That's the question that I want to see. Now, we know that BYU had a good trio of scorers, even when Richie Saunders was healthy, because Robert Wright, the transfer from Baylor, can still fill it up as well. But I just don't know. And I don't know if it's just me doubting BYU or doubting AJ DeBansta, but it's hard for me, and I know this game's on the road, but it's hard for me to see what Iowa State did against Houston and think that they're not going to walk in here and win.
What's the line on that game?
3.5 in favor of the Hawkeyes. Or I'm sorry, the Cyclones.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I was a little surprised by that as well.
Yeah. I think one of the things that may be helpful to Iowa State, if that victory on Monday night had been Wednesday instead, I think it'd be hard to get that team out of the clouds, out of the celebration of beating Houston. But that's now been 5 days ago. And you would think by now they've said, okay, celebration's over. We got to get down to business because the team we're playing is really good. And so that's, on the college level, that ability to put that game behind them and get on with what they've got to deal with, that's really important.
And you got to think, too, letdown spots are a really big thing because when North Carolina beat Duke, they were on cloud nine. The streets of Chapel Hill were ablaze after they beat Duke. And then you go to Miami on Monday night and you lose. Miami's a good team, but you still, that's a team that you probably should have beaten, even if it was on the road. So letdown spots are a really big deal. So I'm interested to see how much of a role that plays in all of this. Let's continue this conversation a little bit on the other side. Plus, we're going to make some weekend picks. Final segment coming up next on the George Plaster Show.
When I got my first car, my dad told me, keep the gas tank full and my number on speed dial. Now parents are telling their kids, save 615-242-9000 just in case. I'm Blair Durham. If you or someone you love is in a wreck, call us. We're here to get you the money you deserve.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
If you are paying too much for your health insurance, you know what? You need to contact the folks at Pancoast Benefits. Pancoast works with businesses and individuals to tackle the high cost of health insurance. Whether you're a business owner, large or small, self-employed, between jobs, or over the age of 65 and in need of a Medicare plan, Pancoast can help. They make understanding your benefits less difficult and more personal. So check them out today, pancoastbenefits.com, or call them at 615-292-3400. Sports and Social in Green Hills Mall is the new home for our Football Night in Nashville promotion. Their food is terrific. Their TV setup looks like a racing sports book in Vegas. And if you're a sports fan, you can't beat it. Starting September the 4th, we'll broadcast from Sports and Social every Thursday night. There's Pop-A-Shot, great football, and the chance to win a beautiful Mikey's Motors golf cart. See you at Sports and Social in Green Hills Mall.
Welcome back in. Final segment here on the George Plaster Show before the weekend is here. And the United States has just won over Slovakia 6-2 and will take on Canada in the gold medal round Sunday at 7:10 a.m. George, I cannot wait. I don't think the fans would have it any other way.
Is that 7:10 Nashville time?
7:10 a.m. Central Time. Yep.
Yeah, I don't think that'll go real well ratings-wise.
Well, I was told if you're not watching the game, you're unpatriotic. So I don't know. I just heard that from a little birdie. I will be up watching.
Well, yeah, look, maybe I will and maybe I won't. That's just an unusual start time.
And I don't know how much of a difference. I don't know if Italy's 7 hours ahead, maybe. Yeah, it does seem a little weird because they've been able to play it. I think it more so has to do with the opening ceremony than anything else because they usually have that pretty early in the afternoon. So
that's a strange start time.
Yeah. So, anyways, just like the women, it is the United States and Canada for the gold. In Milan, Italy, we'll see if the U.S. can add another gold medal. Regardless, they're going to medal, whether it's silver or gold. But when it comes down to Canada, United States' biggest rival, we want the gold. So that is at 7:10 a.m. Central Time on NBC. Peacock might be on the USA Network as well. Continuing our thoughts on the college basketball slate, George, we pretty much hit all the big ones. But another game that I'm pretty interested in as well is UConn and Villanova, because Villanova's kind of been flying under the radar their first year under Kevin Willard. They're 21-5. They're firmly in the field right now as it stands. UConn's coming off of a strange loss to a Creighton team that has not been good this year. So they're going back on the road. UConn's a 2.5-point favorite, but that still intrigues me.
Yeah, I mean, when you try to figure out, okay, how in the world does a pretty mediocre Creighton go to UConn and win? The only good answer that you can really come up with is this is a long season. It used to be 27 games in the regular season. Now there are teams that'll play 33, 34 games in the regular season. UConn might be one of them. And I guess there are just certain nights in that kind of a deal, because that's almost half of an NBA regular season. I guess there are just nights where a team doesn't bring a lot of mental energy. UConn's clearly better than Villanova. I got to say this about Villanova. Kevin Willard, I've known since he was 18 years old through Western Kentucky Broadcasting. Kevin and I have had a lot of fun over the years. If I could get a hold of Kevin right now, I would ask him, what is that thing you're trying to grow? I took a look a couple of days ago. I was like, oh my, what are you doing? And, years ago when he was at Iona, they were playing Vandy here right before New Year's. And my former engineer on Vandy games, Bob Horner, set up this phone call where Kevin didn't know who he was going to be talking to, and it was me. And I told Kevin, I said, the fact that you're succeeding at coaching, I said, I weep for this profession's future. And we've had a good laugh over it. Kevin left Maryland a year ago, and that was probably a good move. It felt like it was a step ahead of the posse. He got a better job, to me, in Villanova, and he's done really well so far. They're, I think they've, I would classify them as a little bit of a surprise. I don't think they're good enough to beat UConn, but the fact that they're at home gives them a puncher's chance. I don't see that they would win that game at UConn, but because it's at Villanova, and I'm guessing it's probably in the 76ers arena,
I think it
that
is.
gives them a shot.
Yeah. Is it the Xfinity Mobile Arena?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where they will be playing. Regardless, I think we're going to see both of these teams in the NCAA tournament. More than likely, probably not going to play each other, but still a really intriguing matchup. The Big East has been fun, especially at the top, because you have St. John's, who may be one of the hotter teams in the country, and St. John's has been fun. I know they had that game versus UConn 3 Friday nights ago that was awesome. They have Creighton tomorrow, the team that beat UConn, ironically. So one final one for me, that Missouri and Arkansas, because Arkansas is coming off the Alabama loss, Missouri's coming off the Vanderbilt win. I think Missouri's a lot better than people give them credit for, and Lenardi did bump them up to the last 4 in. They got the final spot in the latest bracketology. But Arkansas, to me, George, when they're healthy, there is a world in which they can make the Elite Eight. Now, I'm not going to pick that to happen unless the bracket really falls their way. But they have the capability to make a deep run in the tournament.
Sure they do. They get a lot of talent. And, their talent will carry them some places. Remember, they were the one that knocked St. John's out a year ago when everybody kind of wanted St. John's to be the darling. The thing I always go back to is, if the talent level is equal, Calipari's not going to outcoach anybody. Never has, never will. If he's got better talent, he'll normally win. And in those, rare situations where he doesn't have better talent, they don't win.
And you got to
doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, you got to think too that they do have the talent edge, because Missouri's not loaded with a bunch of 5-stars. They have really good players, but Arkansas has a guy by the name of Darius Acuff who just dropped 49, the most ever scored by a true freshman under John Calipari. So they're more talented top to bottom, and this game's at Bud Walton, so that gives them the edge too.
Yeah, they're going to win this game. You say that like I don't know.
Yeah, and clearly I don't know either.
And there's so many crazy things that go on the college level where, a team that's 6-21 leads a team that's going to win the conference by 15. And you're like, what in the hell's going on?
That's how I felt last night.
And it's just February in college basketball. Coaches get more neurotic. You see way more fights in February. There's a tension that's out there for a lot of schools. Missouri is one of those sitting right on the cut line, and a win over Arkansas in Fayetteville would really cement them, to not have to wait until the final day to figure it out.
I saw a post-game speech from Rick Barnes, and he was talking to his team about, he's been in this position several times, but as you get deeper into the regular season, the air just starts to get a little bit thinner at the top. And for a lot of these teams that are on the outside looking in, trying to steal those bids, trying to squeeze themselves into the NCAA tournament, I think Sunday is going to be a pretty good day for the Big Ten. Ohio State and Michigan State and East Lansing. Ohio State is one of those teams that, they had the win over Wisconsin that I didn't see coming. They beat them in Madison, and now they're traveling to East Lansing. They're fighting for their lives. Iowa and Wisconsin. This one is a rivalry at 3 p.m. on FS1. Wisconsin just suffered the loss. Iowa's coming off of the big win versus Nebraska. So I think this will be an excellent opportunity, George, to see those teams that we were just talking about that are fighting for their NCAA tournament lives. That'll be on display on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Ohio State goes to Michigan State and wins. I think these are, to me, Ohio State is sort of a might get in, sitting there right on the cut line. Michigan State, anything but that. It's another in a series of great Izzo teams. You know, when Ohio State played here against Virginia a week ago at Bridgestone, they almost won the game, but in the end, they didn't feel like they had the firepower to close the deal. And they certainly don't have the firepower to close the deal in East Lansing. That said, you know, somebody might call in on Monday when Ohio State wins by 15 and say, you know, take your firepower and stuff it.
Yeah, we're going to get one of those crazy Ohio State fans to call in and watch. Michigan State is they're not showing a line, but if I had to imagine, they're probably a 10.5 point favorite, and Ohio State wins by 20, and we're just dead wrong about this. But who knows? Because I don't see Michigan State having a lot of firepower either on offense, but they get the home court advantage and they play really good team ball, and they have Jeremy Fears, and it seemed like Izzo has gotten him to figure out his act. So I'm going to show my weekend bets, and we'll go through these, George. And I will.
You seem to have really, even though you're an interim, and that needs to be made very clear, you're an interim. The big daddy's going to be coming back soon.
And George, I will be happy to hand off these duties to you. Happy, more than happy. You could have had it today, but hopefully this will be my last go round. And I got to get out of the cellar. I am at a 500. I'm 17-17. So here's to nothing. Now I gave these to our graphic guy Ty before the show. I picked the USA to win gold on Sunday over Canada. Now at the time I didn't know if they were going to beat Slovakia or not. They whooped them. So now they get Canada. I have USA winning the gold. I'm not going to go against my country on that. That's a given. Purdue and Indiana tonight. I'm taking Purdue to win outright. I'm taking Purdue in the points versus Indiana. This is a rivalry. I think it can be close, but Purdue, I don't see them losing 2 in a row at Mackey. Virginia and Miami. I think this is going to be a sneaky good game. This is early in the day. I think it's at 11. If I may have to double check. It's either at 11 or noon. Miami, this is in Coral Gables. Miami is a 10 seed in Lenardi's bracketology. Virginia, top 15 team in the country. I think this will be a tough game, but I'm picking Virginia simply just because I think they're better. Good so far,
the game's
George?
At Virginia.
Is it? Oh, it's at Virginia?
Yeah. First one to 43 wins.
Yes, you're right. You're right. I read that wrong. Yes. So Virginia has the home court advantage, so I feel even better. Or should I? I don't know. Vandy and Tennessee. I'm going Vandy because this is in Memorial. I'm simply going home court. When I believe these two teams are pretty even, I'm going to give the nod to whichever team has the home court advantage. And if Duke Miles is playing tomorrow for Vandy, that should make Vandy fans feel even more confident. George, you're in agreement with me on that, right?
Yeah, I think Vandy wins. But like I've said, the only reason I feel that way is where the game is. If the game's in Knoxville,
And you will be there tomorrow, if I had to imagine.
Yes. Yes, I will.
You and Mark Griffin. So I'm sitting this one out. I'm going to watch from my couch, and I'm perfectly fine with that. Houston and Arizona. This is going to be fantastic. I think this is going to be, as I like to say, fist fight in a phone booth. That has been the story of the Big 12 this year. I'm going Houston because they have home court advantage. If this was at Arizona, I would be picking Arizona. But I think it, like a lot of these, it simply comes down to the home court, and Houston has that.
Too many points.
Too many points, though. I'm just picking money line on that one. I'm not touching that. Arizona or Houston.
Well, now, wait a minute. Hold on a second. That's not how we do that.
Oh, no. Oh, so are you going to make me come on here and say Arizona covers, but Houston wins?
I don't care what you do, but I mean, this is a point spread deal.
All right.
I mean,
all right.
For instance, okay, you know, I could sit there. I'm trying to find one to really make you look bad. Let's see. Let's see if I can find wherever Air Force is. Air Force may be the worst
Air
Division
Force?
One team. Oh my God, they're dreadful. Arizona's absolutely. I mean, Air Force is absolutely dreadful. Anyway, look, this is not about picking who's going to win the game outright. It's about picking against the spread. And if you've been doing it this way, then your record doesn't mean squat.
Oh, I'd be happy to wipe the slate clean and start over. But
When
I am
tell
handing off the
Kelly-
duties to you next week.
No, when I tell Kelly that this is what you've tried to resort to get yourself a 17 up record, oh, please.
I just need wins, George. I need you to take pity on me.
No. Oh, no.
Okay,
No,
fine.
because, you know, I went through a year where I was 20 under 500. Did Kelly show any mercy?
Kelly
Heck
never
no.
shows any mercy.
No, he doesn't.
Okay, fine. I'll pick Arizona to cover, but I'm taking Houston to win. There we go. Michigan and Duke.
No, that's wonderful.
Michigan is a 2.5-point favorite. After what I saw from Michigan against Purdue, I'm going to take Michigan and the points. Michigan minus 2.5 to win that. And then Iowa State and BYU. This does make me really nervous, incredibly nervous. Iowa State is a 3.5-point favorite. Give me BYU plus the points. There we go. That's it.
Are you done?
I'm done.
This is one of the most fraudulent attempts to do spreads that I have heard in a while.
I'm trying to pull one over on you, George, because I just need wins.
Yeah, it's not going to work.
I've been
So
called
you
out.
get up at 7:10 on Sunday morning and enjoy your hockey at 7 in the morning.
Will you be enjoying the hockey at 7:10 in the morning?
Maybe.
All right, there's a chance. We'll have
There's
to
a
see how it
chance.
goes. We'll recap it all on Monday, and I will be handing over the betting duties to George. Thank the good Lord. We'll talk.
Oh, maybe not.
We'll see how it goes. Fingers crossed. We'll do this again on Monday on the George Plaster Show.